Yeah, and
But
so that was just a drone footage of the panel house that we did with Matt, and so they were prefabricated panels from Homeland Hempcrete and Matt Marino, um, 22 panels, 4 by 8 foot. Most of them are just your standard panels that just look like a big block, and then he makes custom panels anywhere where there's going to be doors or windows. Um, and yeah, I mean, we were done with that project in 4.5 hours, I think. So, yeah, so we are blessed that the tribal council didn't pull the plug right when we brought that to them. They were the ones that said we got to get rid of it all. Their exact words were, "We can't sleep well at night if we know that we're putting someone in a moldy house when we're supposed to be putting them into healthier homes." And so yeah, we're just gonna yeah, fix it. We got to fix it. We can't just leave it like that. And so it's a bummer, but it is what it is. Now we're gonna know how to deconstruct the hempcrete house as well. And so there ain't gonna be too many problems that we won't be able to navigate through. And the reason it had to get rushed was because of the funding. And so everything had to be done before December 31st. And so yeah, we wanted to not have any windows and just leave the thing just sit and cure. But yeah, the contractor had to have all of his stuff done by December 31st. So yeah, everything got sealed up before the winter, or during the winter. So.
Well, Gene, I saw you skip forward a few slides and then back. Where were we? I think we're on the panel project.
when Matt was
Yeah.
on, showed us the film. This is just a screenshot from the
Yep.
film.
Yeah, and
But
so that was just a drone footage of the panel house that we did with Matt, and so they were prefabricated panels from Homeland Hempcrete and Matt Marino, um, 22 panels, 4 by 8 foot. Most of them are just your standard panels that just look like a big block, and then he makes custom panels anywhere where there's going to be doors or windows. Um, and yeah, I mean, we were done with that project in 4.5 hours. I think it was on site from start of actually putting the panels up, and so we just lifted them up onto the deck with the skid steer there, and then we just manhandled them into place. We would screw a 2x4 onto each side, lift it up, and use the 2x4 as like our handlebars, and we would just walk them into place like a big refrigerator. And that's how we placed them all. It was. He said it was actually faster. He typically uses a crane and or um, like a telehandler with a jig that he has made up that'll place the panels in place. But he said the way we did it was actually faster than that way, because then you don't have to unhook the jig and then hook it back up and do all that. So we got, yeah, I mean, 4.5 hours and all of the exterior walls were complete. And that was another 12-inch thick walls with each one of those panels, I think, are around 650 to 700 pounds.
Yeah,
No
see.
concrete was used in the foundation there. We just used 16 steel footings that were manufactured in North Dakota, I think, is where we got those from. And so they were fairly local, I guess.
Hmm.
And yeah, no concrete in there. So that's kind of cool. Um,
Nice.
just a
And
one.
Matt talks a lot about this in the presentation that he did when he came on. And so anybody jumping in here, go back and reference that one with Matt Marino as well. There's a lot of good. I know a lot of folks are looking down the pathway, like you mentioned, about prefabrication, either with block or panels.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good cooks in the kitchen, and Matt's definitely one of them.
Yeah, and
and the,
yeah, I can't say enough good things about Matt. Like, showed up on site. He was, works just like us, and um, yeah, it was really fun to do. So I actually look forward to doing more panel projects, because just how quick they went up. It was just, we plan on going forward using panels, but then spraying the panels. I know Matt does cast in place on his panels right now, but we want to just spray the panels so we can really just crank them out as fast as possible, and keep those down as well, you know, because these panels, even though they're quick to put up, you still have to account for the time that gets put into creating these panels as well.
Right.
So that's a big cost that we'll be able to cut down on with the labor by spraying, I guess. And then by placing the panels, you know, placing the panels is so much quicker than basically any other way of doing hempcrete, I guess, is, you know, instead of, you know, like I keep saying, I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. I'm just saying the way that's practical for us, because we want to build so many of them so fast, you know, like our last census says that we need 200 homes in our community. And if we're only building 4 houses a year, it's going to take us 50 years to get there, you know, and then we're going to need another 200 houses. And so I'm not telling anybody how they should do it. I'm just saying how we plan on doing it to try and crank them out faster, you know, and really make a difference here. So yeah, in the housing. And so this slide here is of a house that we did the complete retrofit of. It was an old structure. The main structure of the house, we think, was built in the late 1800s. We think it's the first house ever built here in the community. It was built by the church. And then right next to it is the school that they built, the first school in the community. And this house actually served as the school before the school got built. And so the people who ran the church, one of their sons would teach the kids school stuff in this house. And so it was kind of cool to do a complete retrofit of that. This house had still been being lived in all the way up until when we did the retrofit. It wasn't like an abandoned house or anything. You can see it has like vinyl windows there up front. A car had actually hit this house in the like 2010 or since then. So within the last like 15 years, a car had ran into the front of this house, and so the front had all been reframed up and had new features to it, whereas the main structure, the back part of this house, still had no plastic in the wall. It was all just like the old buffalo board holding it together, you know, for the exterior. And the inside of the wall cavity was cellulose, you know, basically just like paper chopped up and put into the wall cavity, but no vapor barrier. You know, there was no plastic anywhere in that section of the house. And so that entire section of the house, which would be the very back of this picture all the way to the right, all of that, there was no mold in any of that section of the house, because there was no plastic vapor barriers in that section of the house. Whereas the section of the house that had just been redone in the last 15 years was all plastic and all black mold everywhere you look. And so you can see to the picture on the left, you can see those 4 from like a screw or a nail or something that, you know, I think they had a clock or a picture hung there over the years, and those holes pierced that, you know, and all the moisture in the building ends up, you know, finding its way through those holes. And that was actually towards the top of the wall, you know, up where you would hang a clock or a picture. And the mold started to travel down, all the way down the wall. And then you can see the pictures to the right where it basically just started spreading through every bit of the pink insulation. You know, it's like it's not even on a trail there. It's basically just, you know, covering the entire surface now. I don't know if you added any more of them, Gene, but there was some more in there too where, you know, then it also started being on the opposite side of the vapor barrier too, you know, not just on the inside where the pink is, but also on the outside where your drywall is and your trim and anything. So both sides were mold, you know, the mold wasn't just being trapped in that wall. They were living in the mold as well, you know. And so I don't know if you added those pictures, Gene, but when we pulled, this was their entire living room. All of it was black mold. The entire bottom, all the way around the entire living room was all thick black mold. And like some of it was, you know, like on the back of the drywall, when you pull it off, it's like in layers, you know. And so that had been there for a long time. And it's, you know, they'd been living in it. People were still living in this house. And so it's insane. And that house had just been redone. You know, that mold, all that mold had grown within the last, you know, 15 years or whatnot. And so it's just crazy to um, to think that a lot of people are probably living in a house like this and they don't even know it.
Yeah, that's one of the best illustrations, and that's one of the things I saw in all the fix and flips that I did investing is just like how much of that is in these systems when we wrap them with plastic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is the main cause of it is that plastic. You know, you can have the best drywall person, you can have the best carpenter, and they can hit every stud with their staple gun, and they can hit every stud with their screw gun when they're hanging the drywall. But then that homeowner can go and hang a picture and miss the stud right away and pop a hole in that plastic, and you know your vapor barrier has been compromised, and your wall has basically been compromised at that point because once that plastic is added in there, now any of that moisture that's getting in there is now being trapped, you know, whereas the old style wall with all these cracks and this you know, it's basically vapor permeable because it's not doesn't have this um, this plastic in it, and there was no mold in any of that, and that had been there for well over 100 years. So it's insane that we're building the way we are, I guess.